dear. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased as the co-chair of the New York chapter of WZCC to kick off today's session where we are going to explore Novelist's journey in her midlife career change with Nawaz Merchant and Lila Sidhwa. And it's my great honor to introduce these people to you now. Let me tell you a little bit about Nawaz. Writing as Nev March, author Nawaz Merchant is the recent winner of the Minotaur Books Mystery Writers of America Award for Best First Crime Fiction. In 2015, after a long career in business analysis, she returned to her passion of writing fiction and now teaches creative writing at Rutgers Osher Institute. A Parsi Zoroastrian herself, Nawaz lives in New Jersey with her husband and two sons. Murder in Old Bombay is her debut novel. And I just want to say that she is a most excellent contributing member of Zagni and Faizana, and she has always been the most delightful presence. So I'm so pleased with what has happened with her recently. And we are also going to have a moderator for our session who will lead things and handle the Q&A afterwards. Ms. Lila Sidhwa. She is a public relations and social media practitioner and the owner of Lila Public Relations, a company that helps businesses build their brands using social media platforms, web development, and media relations. Lila has been working with Nawaz remotely from Toronto since June to help build publicity for Murder in Old Bombay and introduce her to the worlds of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. In her pastime, Lila can be found practicing and teaching yoga classes or chasing her spunky Jack Russell Diego around the backyard. She works part-time as a COVID-19 screener at the hospital and resides with her family in Oakville. And her website is lilapublicrelations.com. And Nev March also has her website. So I think we can get started now, and I'll hand it off to Lila. Go ahead.
Thank you, Natalie.
Sure.
So so just to get started, I've been working with Nawaz for almost 6 months now, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with her. She's so lovely to work with. And so we've prepared some slides here today to just go through, and she's going to talk a little bit about her journey as an author and kind of inspiration in pursuing her dream to be a writer, career 2.0 as she calls it. So we're going to talk a bit about that, and then I'll touch on kind of my contribution to her book and to her publicity. And yeah, so I'll let Nawaz kind of kick off, and to start, I'm going to ask one question. What was it like for you, Nawaz, to win the Minotaur contest from Mystery Writers of America?
Awesome. Thank you, Lila. So I stopped sharing so that people can see your pretty face. Otherwise, the big screen gets covered with, with my slide here. So let's talk about that. This contest really kick-started my career as a writer. Although I had trained and prepared and learned a good bit about the craft of writing, I think one has to be ready for opportunities. And this clearly was a stellar one. So I was ready at the right point in my preparation so that I could use that award as a jumping off point to get the publicity and get the traction. And I have to admit that Macmillan did a stellar job. The publisher did a stellar job in helping me as a newbie writer with that. So it's been absolutely a thrill to win that award. I have a picture, I'm going to bring it up in a second. But let me tell you that going to the Edgar Awards is a little bit like a newbie actor being invited to the Oscar Awards. And not just as an attendee, you're actually going to speak, right? In front of all the people you admired. So terrifying, but also an absolute thrill. And they couldn't have been nicer. It was so welcoming. It was just a joy to be there. And that this isn't an Edgar. Edgar Awards are acknowledgements of published works. This is a award for unpublished writers that is, presented at the Edgar Awards. So I want to make that distinction. So let's jump into the slides and tell people about this journey, Leila.
I think this is really inspiring for a lot of people just in pursuing dreams, just learning that it's not all fun when you jumped into this. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is our the slide we were talking about, all dressed up and in the middle of these luminaries. But recognize that writing is a business, right? It is a small business. It's a sole proprietorship many times. So I'm actually going to take us through some of the steps that one may not know are involved in a career in publishing. And hopefully that can also tell people who have another passion. Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's just something that they know or they do or they're interested in, and help them figure out how to turn that into career 2.0, right? And what the rewards might be. So yeah, let's jump into that. So this is the only slide I have about the book itself, because a lot of these folks on our call today have already heard about the book. So for anyone who hasn't, the book is based on real events. It's an incident that occurred in the Parsi community in 1891. And what had actually happened was these two ladies in the middle of the page, you can see two ovals with the pictures of the victims, Bacha and Pilu. They were 20 and 16 years old, respectively. And for some reason that nobody will ever understand, they went up to the top of Rajabai Tower, the university clock tower, in the middle of the day. And first one and then the other fell from there to their deaths. And it was a tragedy, destroyed, the family was just distraught. The community was very upset. The husband of the older girl was actually Ardeshir Godrej, a 22-year-old law student. And I can't imagine what he went through, because he'd only been married 1 year, to lose his bride like that. So he recovered. It's unbelievable to me. It's incredible to me that he managed to pull himself together and not only went on with his life, but he became a serial entrepreneur, obviously threw himself into his work and created what is today the Godrej conglomerate. He never remarried, so it's a tragic love story. But I had this picture from Parsiana, the 2012 issue. That's what I thought Bacha looked like. And on the left is a picture of the actual Rajabai Tower that I visited and got special permission to go up, even though it is closed to the public. I was able to go up in that very, very narrow passageway to the top of the gallery. So the book is about a possible solution. It is fiction. I am not claiming that this actually happened, but it's historical fiction, which tells you what could have happened and what could be the real story behind these tragic events. And I'm going to leave it at that, because most of you have already, if not read the book, you at least have attended a talk and you know what it's like. Hi, Krishid, I see you there. Glad you could join. You're on mute, but happy to see you. Uh-oh, we have her on mute. Okay. Never mind. I'm sorry, it is not working right now. So let's continue our slides, and then happy to talk and answer any questions you may have. Both of us will be, Lila and I will take our turns answering. So what career skills did I need? This is a key factor. I had a 20-year career in corporate America prior to changing over to writing. And some of the things I really leaned on were building support for my new career, finding advocates for it. market research to find out whether the audience will appreciate it and what kind of book, how to market it, what genres, those kinds of things. Project management, my goodness, I ended up having a very, leaning on my project management skills a lot. Keeping organized, oh my, and definitely persistence. We'll talk about that. Building those marketing materials, and then, of course, constantly refining my skills. So this is the money slide, right? This is where you see the sausage making. Most people think that all it takes is the first two steps. You learn the craft of writing, and then you write the book. And that they think is the end of it, right? Now the book is ready and you're an author. And you can do it, you can self-publish at that point and have a finished product. But in the publishing industry, here's all the other pieces in very brief that are involved. So first you have to create some graphics. This picture is my initial title or cover of the book. You can see it's just very creepy looking. It's actually a picture of Big Ben because I couldn't find a picture of Rajabai Tower that was dark and scary looking and uplit. So I just used a placeholder. The original title was the Rajabai Tower Mystery, because if you Google that, you will get the articles about the original events. So basic marketing. I did some, Facebook page, some few posts on Goodreads, very basic website. Then, of course, I had to create all the materials that we needed. That is the query letter, the synopsis, the information about how to pitch this book, and find a list of suitable agents. Who do you pitch? Sending out query letters. I ended up sending 90 letters out before I heard from 2 agents that they were interested. And then finally, when the agent accepts you, they pitch publishers and so on. And then a publisher has to accept the book, and then there are publisher revisions. Luckily, we jump-started some of this because the award then comes with a publishing contract. So they accepted that they would publish, Macmillan would publish the book because of the award. And then at the end there, after waiting almost a year, the book launches, the publisher starts to market the book, and then the author, of course, also needs to promote. And I didn't realize how much work went into the marketing and promoting of the book. So that was my journey. And I think when most people look at writing, it's somehow this magical, mysterious thing that just happens that authors come up with. I wanted to explain that there is actually a process. And so here it is, the mysterious process laid out. So first, a new concept will haunt me, and this could be 3 to 6 months. I'm just thinking about it. It's not solidified. Then I researched that topic or that era or that event, and that could be anywhere from 3 to 15 months. I'm agonizing over the outline at this point. I'm actually writing an outline of what the book will be. Then for 3 to 4 months, I obsessively write. At this point, I don't return phone calls. I forget that I have committed to do things. So I'm very unreliable because I'm totally sucked into the book at this point. I do usually put a disclaimer, almost like like an out of office, to let people know right now I'm sucked into this world. And so I'm writing almost constantly, either writing or thinking about writing, because the scenes play out in my head like a video and they keep repeating. So you have to write it and get it out. Then there's a ton of work to revise and rework the piece. And this could be 3 to 6 months. It could take a year of repetitions. I'm sharing it with early readers, critique partners, back and forth. And then it goes to the publisher. Again, there are a few edits, but we wait in the queue for about 9 months. And finally, Murder in Old Bombay got published. But there are 2 hands of the clock here, because in November, while Murder in Old Bombay had gotten published, I had already written the first draft of the sequel. So I'm kind of here for the second book. And here's my preliminary horrible cover, just a creepy looking carriage in the background. It's Murder at the Exposition. Again, this is going to change. The cover will certainly change. The title will probably change. But I
Nawaz,
need
I'm
a
gonna
placeholder.
jump in and ask a question here. So in this whole writing process that's quite extensive, takes a while, were there a lot of times where you kind of wrote pieces and then you loved them, but you couldn't see where they could fit, or for some reason they just didn't serve a purpose to the story, and kind of what would you do with those pieces? Because I think that's something a lot of writers struggle with.
Yeah, people don't want to delete. After you spend days on something, then you really don't want to delete it. So what I end up doing is I have a separate file of deleted bits. And if something doesn't fit with the story or is just going on too long or needs to be trimmed, I carve it out of the book and I move it into the deleted bits. And the deleted bits file can be half as long as the book itself. So it's a ton of material, and it's not wasted in a sense, because who knows, there may be a sequel that comes out of one of those scenes. So I carve it out by doing that. It allows you to keep the book as trim as you can. And I have to admit that the book was far longer than it is right now. I had to trim it down to the size that it is right now. So thanks, Layla. So let's continue on with the slides. I'm happy to, sort of trigger questions for people. If you want to put them in the chat, that's good. If they want to hold them for the end, that's fine too. And Layla has contributed so much to this process. So when I talk about finding your tribe, it's literally finding the people that will give you what you don't have, the pieces that you don't have. So I was doing all the stuff on the left, reading books on the craft, completing courses, conferences. And then on the right were the people that I needed, like Lila, who gave me information and knowledge and skills that I didn't have coming into this. So certainly writer friends give you different perspectives. Other friends help you research. There are mentors that I have. I have to acknowledge two people, Baman Desai, who was a wonderful support to me as a writer. He's a self-published writer that wrote Trio, marvelous book, and Memory of Elephants, and a few more. And then when I was really disheartened, Thriti Umrigar, I had a talk with her, and through Spenta, she managed to connect us. And I said, look, I've been pitching for 6 months and nobody wants the book. So should I just, go to publishers? My plan B was go directly to publishers, small publishers. The large publishers only go through agents. And then I said, well, if that doesn't work, I'm going to self-publish this book. She said, no, 6 months isn't long. Keep going. So thank you to those folks. But bookstores, yeah, right? You need that, and persistence, because when 80 people tell you the same thing, you start to believe them. But clearly they were wrong. You got to keep going, and maybe the 88th person might be the person you need. So I start every talk with this picture because it's a big thank you to my writers group. We meet every week at the Hunterdon County Library. This is the set of writers that really helped form the book. These sweethearts actually went through one chapter a week for 70 weeks. So I have very short chapters, and these guys went through them. 3 of them actually got hard copies and went through line by line. So big thank you to this group. So here's some of the business side now of marketing. Then most writers, either they learn it as they go. Rarely do you come in with the knowledge that you have to do all this market work, this business side work. The market research is, you have to name comparable books when you are pitching it. They want to know what's a similar book, because they want to know what's the market for this book. And for me, it was Sujata Massey's Widows of Malabar Hill, which is set 30 years after my time period, but it's close enough. And it was a blockbuster, so it doesn't hurt. There are very few other books in this genre, very few books written in the period, historical time period about India. Contemporary books, plenty, but mysteries are few and far between. Then you have to find suitable agents. Who do you pitch? There are 4,000 literary agents. I did not want to write 4,000 letters. So I had to figure out from the Writer's Digest directory of literary agents, which agents are interested in history, historical books, and which agents are interested in mysteries, because this is a historical mystery. It's got both elements. Then you identified relevant publishers, the target audience. Sorry, just hit the mute somehow. Got it. So, Leila, you and I'll talk about influencers in a second.
Yeah.
Right? So, where do you get input on your product as well as your pitch? Early readers and beta readers, they could be writers who are helping you or just people who read. They're helping you. You have critique groups, you have contests that give you feedback, and there are training webinars. I attended 2 training webinars to learn how to pitch. You'd imagine after working in marketing for 20 years that that would come, that would be easy, but it's not. It is not easy to pitch. And to pitch really very briefly is a talent. I learned that my query letter was 3 times as long as it should be. Let's go on. Yeah. So here's just a quick summary. There are 2.2 million new book titles. This is 2013. It's now even higher. At that point in time, there were about 300,000 new titles published in the USA. Now it's 1.3 million. But about half of the readers of fiction read mysteries. So has the pandemic changed reading? I was trying to keep in touch with, is the market smaller? If you look at this, the bottom line, yeah, publishing has gone down 4% in 6 months, Jan to June, compared to previous year. But if you look at adult books, just fiction and nonfiction, it's actually up 2%. So people are reading as much or maybe slightly more. The biggest drop has come from the instructional materials in the middle of the page. School books basically aren't being sold and bought at the same rate because of all the at-home tuition. So here's some initial marketing and promotion. And I'm going to hand over to Lila in a couple of slides because she's going to take us through some of the details of social media. This is my original Facebook page on the left-hand side, and I just made a few pictures using Canva saying I have an agent. It was very, very preliminary. I didn't really know how to use these things at the bottom, Instagram, Twitter. Wasn't using LinkedIn the way it could be, and even Facebook I had very limited knowledge of. So here's what my current website looks like. And somehow it has gotten a little bit shifted in presentation mode. That's okay. So I worked with Lila to fine tune my website. So you want to talk a little bit about the changes that we made in this version?
So we kind of revamped the website a little bit. So we wanted to add a background theme to make it a little bit more on brand with the book and with Nawaz herself. And so the background is kind of this beautiful kind of scene of, it's kind of otherworldly a little bit. And it's great for attracting an audience who might be from a younger demographic. Obviously the colors, you can see the title is the similar color to the book. And we wanted the homepage right away to have the book cover, a brief synopsis, which we had to continually cut down to make it brief, and the book trailer as well. So as soon as you enter at nevmarch.com, you can really easily just click the trailer and view the trailer right away. And then also the button for buying signed copies is right there. So it's all kind of easily accessible. So that's what our whole goal here with the website was, to make it very accessible and easy to use. So Nawaz, if you want to go to the next slide here.
Yeah.
So it was an absolute honor getting to partner with Nawaz. It was a lot of fun to work with her. So getting started, when we first kind of started putting things together, we decided to develop a bit of a PR plan. So this was to build an online presence. That's kind of the purpose of it. And realizing this is a business, as Nawaz said, and you're writing and you're selling your book, and it can't succeed without people knowing about it. So getting people knowing about it and getting the right people, the target audience, aware of the book and getting them interested. So we kind of had to go through what are our goals, our publicity tasks, what do we already have, and what do we still need? And what we already have is really important because a lot of the times we don't realize how much we already have for publicity. And then learning what our long-term tactics are with social media, increasing engagement and maintaining engagement, which comes with ongoing posting and sharing and liking and commenting. So if you want to hit the next slide. So the PR plan kind of broke things down for us and let us kind of get organized too. So we kind of outlined our objectives, which were basically to get interest from the target audience in the book and also in Nawaz herself as Nev March, the author. So we wanted kind of those two main objectives. And then kind of zoning on who the target audience is specifically. So reaching the younger demographic and then figuring out where that target audience is. Well, they're mostly online right now. They're mostly on, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And then taking contemporary themes from the novel and those kind of more modern themes and using those to leverage and gain interest from the target audience, because that's where they're gonna find the most interest in the novel. And then obviously planning social media, so developing an Instagram page for Nawaz, developing Twitter, and kind of getting the posting more scheduled, more frequent. And then at the bottom of every PR plan, we always had our next steps for both of us. And both of us kind of worked on the PR plan and added to it. So if you want to hit the next slide, Nawaz. So we can briefly go over the PR plan if you want to click it. So this is kind of what we started with, and then we kept changing it and updating it as we went along.
I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, right?
Oh, it's not showing up here.
Oh, okay.
Is it showing up for anyone else?
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare. Yeah. Better?
There we go, yeah. Yeah, so just really briefly, so basically we included everything Nawaz already had. So the awards and recognition she already had, the personal connections, which was really big. She had, well, we figured out almost 2,000 connections that we could kind of go through. And then what was her current social media presence? She had Facebook and LinkedIn and her website already. Online coverage, we went through whatever articles she was already kind of in. And then the target audience, this was really important. So we broke it down. We had media and then social media. So who's on social media and where they are. The Indian community media, which was really big, and all the different magazines there. And then the Parsi community media as well. And those were more specific to Parsi magazines, newspapers. And then breaking down our target audience by age group, and figuring out which part of the novel would attract which age group. So we were looking at the different groups and kind of appealing to different aspects of the novel there. And then we can go back.
Yeah, I have to reshare. Here. Got it.
Perfect. Yeah, Nawaz, if you want to talk briefly about these ones.
Yeah, sure. So I have to admit, I knew a little bit about, a lot about pharmaceutical marketing, but not a lot about book promotion. And creating those promotional materials was important, using Canva, Unsplash, free, credit-free, and cost-free, beautiful images. But Macmillan also did help with the design, especially the cover and some of the initial assets, the pictures that we share. but we had a lot of material and it gets confusing really quick. So Layla helped me organize material. We have a shared folder where we both can look at things and keep things organized. We created a log where I could put the 24 interviews that I had ended up getting scheduled, and then 44 different articles or reviews. Each, is an asset that we can promote. So to organize and find these things when you need them is crucial. Also to know when to, the schedule of when to post them, so that they're not all happening at the same time and losing impact. Determining which materials are suitable for which venue, where certain things will resonate more, and learning just how to post. I didn't realize that Instagram, you cannot post from your computer, you have to post from a phone. So things that just, you start searching and you just can't find things. I have to admit, Lila helped me tremendously with this. So thank you, Lila. I've learned so much from you and it's become easy now. So
Happy
maintaining an
to.
email list, yeah, it's been a great partnership. And just all these things we've been doing, just to keep that momentum going. Because as a sole proprietor, right, a writer is a sole small business that you're running. There's nobody else that's going to set up schedule, but us. So we have to keep ourselves organized. So that was really useful to have those tools to do that. There you go. And maybe I'll hand this one back to you for social media, because it is, some people feel like this is optional. I think that for me, if I wanted to attract a younger demographic, I was going to have to go here. There's very few young people these days that are, I don't know, reading newspapers or, like ads in newspapers. That's not going to get you a younger demographic. Even websites, younger folks are moving, gravitating to certain places, and you have to go meet them in those places if you want to attract their attention. And so that means engaging in things that I didn't know anything about, like Instagram, Twitter, certainly Facebook, but using LinkedIn in a different way as well. So, Lela, you want to talk a little bit about online presence here?
Yeah, so social media is kind of where the younger audience is at today. That's where they're looking, and they're not really looking anymore at a person's website necessarily, or a person's presence in advertisements or magazines. They want to know who this person is really. So it's kind of a way of getting to know your day to day. So people want to know, okay, I see what you look like to the public, but what's your day to day like? What are you really posting? What's your personality? So that's what social media does, and I think that's why the younger generation is so interested in using it, because it's breaking down these, well, sometimes celebrities or any famous people into, okay, but this is their real life, this is their day to day. So that's why it's useful to the younger demographic, and it's useful to you to use something like this to attract that demographic. So yeah, it gives your audience an idea of your personality, and that's kind of going to go both ways. That's going to get them interested in the book, and their interest in the book is going to get them interested in your personality. So it kind of works both ways. And then finding and leveraging the target audience engagement. So liking other people's posts, commenting on them, following people who kind of match your brand, and obviously posting photos as well. And that comes too with captions, hashtags. Hashtags are really useful too. We're going to talk about them in a sec. And then, going through all those social media platforms. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn were our main ones. And Nawaz had already had a Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter as well, but wasn't really posting too much on it. So we developed an Instagram and started kind of getting Twitter more regular and up to date. And yeah, hashtags basically are the pound key on your keyboard, which is the shift 3. And it's, the phone number, kind of the number sign. And when you use hashtags in captions on Instagram, they allow people to search by a specific tag. So say you use the term author or mystery novel for Nawaz's sake. and somebody searches mystery novels who's interested in mystery novels, Nawaz's post is going to come up, and that's going to give them an opportunity to follow her, follow the hashtag. So those come really useful when it comes to bringing in more people. And if you want to click over to the next slide. So these are just some examples of posts. So this one on the far left, you can see is an Instagram story. Instagram post is the square, and then the Twitter post is kind of more horizontal. You want to go to the next slide. So this is a quick snapshot of Nev March's Instagram. So we have her handle as Nev March, so it's easy to access as the author name. In her bio, we have a Linktree link, which allows people to click the link and then go to any other link of any of her other pages or articles she's in or anything. So it's a really simple way of allowing people to just quickly access things about her. And if you look down at her photos, you can see there's a bit of a mix between promotional content for the book and herself, her personality, who she is. So if you look at that first photo, it's a beautiful kind of scene of trees and kind of like a forest. That's something that she posted personally, and that's her own, her own brand. And that's what people want to see online. They want to see the mix of that and the book too, and the features and, all of that. So it's kind of a nice combination there. And that's what attracts that target audience. So if we want to click to the next slide. So this is the Facebook page. As you can see, the cover photo is kind of really graphically appealing. It's got beautiful color. It's very on brand with the book and the kind of time and historical. You can see her handle, Nev March, matches the handle of the Instagram. So it's really easy to access across all platforms. And then if you look down at the bottom right photo, you can see the types of posts she uses on Facebook are more informative, less graphic. They're more information, more text, and like updates and links and things like that. So if we click over to the next slide, you can take over from here, I think.
Yeah, it's our penultimate slide. So how do you measure success, right? Most people in a small business will measure success in terms of sales, but Macmillan will only do an accounting twice a year. So I have to wait till the middle of next year to know what my sales are. So what people do is they look at their ratings. What authors do is they have a dashboard in Goodreads or in Amazon, and you look at your ratings. And for a book that's out 3 weeks, I have 6,000 people who intend to read it. So that's a good sign that number are interested. And the book's only been out 3 weeks. Also, there's an Amazon rank, which has this funny looking shape on the right-hand side. I really don't know that it makes a whole lot of difference, but people track these things. I'm not paranoid about them. What I look at is whether readers are enjoying the book. And one way to know that is to get lovely little emails from people who have read the book. So thank you, Edel. That made my day. Your little note, you made my day. And here are some wonderful reviews. And I do read reviews. Once in a while, you get a person who just didn't get the book, but you know what? They could be having a bad day. So I'm not going to take that personally. But it's been wonderful. It's been so rewarding to go through and to feel that people appreciate the book and have enjoyed it. That is ultimately the goal, is that they read it, they feel that they enjoyed it, they had a good experience, and that maybe they learned something or thought about something differently. So here's a couple of quotes. The greatest books have lives of their own. And then this one that really resonated for me from Samuel Beckett: ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail again, but fail better. I think our thinking is very binary in terms of success and failure, and actually it's a progression. So just keep going, but get better. Don't keep doing the same thing. Get better at it. And so that is my website. Feel free to go in there, and there's a bunch of additional content and photographs and the like. And thank you for joining our talk.
Thank you. So I'll open it up to questions. If you guys want to click the chat box at the bottom of the screen and enter any questions you have. And for Nawaz or myself, feel free to kind of ask away. I see there's one here from Money. Are you looking for Nawaz's email or?
That may be
Okay, so
directing
there's
me
one
to
in the
Lila.
box here. There's,
Okay.
oh, mine. Okay, I'll send that over. I'll send it in the chat quickly.
So there's a question from Adel, while other
Yeah.
folks think of things to ask. Adel's writing, Nawaz, did you get the Mystery Writers Award before you had the agent? How important was the award to jumpstart the publishing? So, Adel, I actually got the agent in January of 2019, and I had already submitted for that, that contest as well as a dozen others. And I'd even forgotten about the contest because it felt like a lottery to me. What were the chances? So my agent had started pitching the first 6 publishers, and before we heard much back from them, I got the award in April. And so that she told me it made her job very easy because it comes with a publishing contract, and then we knew that we were going with that publisher. But I didn't know when I got the award that that is going to be that important. I actually sent it over to her with the title Yikes, because I didn't know what it meant. And she said, wait, Minotaur, it means it's part of Macmillan. And this is a good thing because Macmillan is the world's largest publisher of detective fiction. So this is where you want to be. My concern was that, if this was going to be an award that was a very regional or small publisher, is this really where we want to be? And she said, absolutely yes. This is a very good thing. So yeah, it was very important to jumpstart the publishing. But I don't think I was just lucky, Ada, honestly. Um, it's not necessary. This is one way one can get a presence, but the traditional route is just going to the agent, getting the agent, going to the publisher, and getting a publisher excited about your novel. And many people have had enormous success doing just that. So maybe at this point we want to unmute in case people want to ask questions directly rather than typing them in.
I submitted one more in the chat box, so Lila.
Got it. Yeah, so Laila, you need to unmute. It does somehow mute as well. That's okay. So unmute yourself, Laila. Yeah, the question is, how many copies do you expect to sell, and hard copies versus ebooks, and do libraries automatically purchase? So that's a good question here. A couple of good questions here. How many copies is very difficult to predict. The first printing is about 11,000 copies, and then based upon demand, so if they run out or they're close to running out, they will reprint in expectation, looking at the trend. So the first batch has gone out.
I think it just muted you, Nawaz.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure what got heard. Essentially, the first batch has been printed. There are 11,000 copies, and as they get exhausted, they will replenish. That's how that works. And hard copies, yeah, those are hard copies. We're talking about 11,000 printed books. There are e-copies, which are much easier, of course, to transmit. The Kindle books, we could, have as many as there's demand for. And there's also an audiobook, which is a marvelous addition for people who are either traveling or seniors like to have books read to them because they're actually being performed. It's like a radio play. And my book is being read by a celebrity. Vikas Adam is a voice actor who won awards for Life of Pi. He read that. He also read out Passage to India and the book Lion that has been made into a blockbuster film. So to get him to read it was a joy because his mother is Parsi. And yeah, and he got all the terms that we use and he got the pronunciation spot on. So that was fantastic. He's also a really nice guy. So we expect we'll sell a good number of audiobooks because also for his celebrity name, but just the quality of product that he creates. And that's been the trend. And then there were question about libraries. So library marketing is its own thing. And we got enormous support from libraries. I was really astonished. So there are a few websites that do that promote to librarians. We promoted a few free copies to, they called ARC, Advanced Review Copies. We gave librarians a few free copies and we got some phenomenal reviews from them. And so libraries are buying it. I was just told the Toronto Public Library, which is really big, has my book is on hold, and my own relative is number 33rd in the list. So I went down to see, well, how many do they have? They have 13 copies of my book. Woo. And that's great. Yeah. So libraries are definitely purchasing it. And I can see, folks wanting to borrow it. I actually had this one friend who picked it up from the library, started reading, and then she said, no, I want to own this. She emailed me, can you send me a signed copy? Because I want to own it. Okay, whatever works. I'm happy to oblige.
That's awesome. Rustam left a question here. He said, how is writing a book of short stories different from writing a novel?
Yeah, a novel is a series of interconnected short stories, is really what it is. So each chapter must have a beginning, middle, and end. Each chapter must surprise and move the story forward. That's why I work with an outline. I think you start with short stories because it's manageable. A novel is an enormous time commitment. So I think you hone your craft with short stories, and they are not easy by any means to write a really good short story because you are more compact, but you learn the craft of writing dialogue, the craft of writing narration and internal thoughts, and moving the story forward and having a point, having a punchline. All of that you learn in a short story, and then combine that with a longer narrative into a novel. But it is hard to sell a book of short stories. It is marketing wise, very few agents want that. They want novels, and you can sell a book of short stories once you've sold a few novels, then they'll accept your collection, short story collection. It's very, very rare. It does happen, but it's very rare that you can start with a book of short stories.
Interesting.
I have a question, if I could.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about, Nawaz, you are so sociable and so wonderful to work with, and just such a phenomenal, easygoing person. How do writers who are antisocial, how do they survive and how do they become successful? I remember a story about Phil Roth. He had to go live in a cabin in the woods. And if the mailman came to his cabin, he got furious. He just couldn't work that way. When you become very successful as a writer, are you going to do I would hate it if you did less of the socializing, and if you went and lived in a cabin. But can you say anything about that persona of the writer being very isolated and not sociable at all, and how do they become successful? And
Yeah,
as
it's a
opposed
very
to
good
you.
question. So Thoreau, right, wrote on Walden Pond, went off to the woods and built his own cabin and made a phenomenal book out of it. there's a traditional mystique around writing where the writer is isolated and therefore able to go within. Um, there is a certain amount of quiet that I need, that most writers need, to be able to go within very deeply. And actually, it's complex to be able to handle that complexity. You know, it requires the same kind of attention as when I was doing coding, you know, complex programming. I needed quiet. I couldn't handle that complexity while somebody was talking in the background or there was noise in the background. It's just how my brain works. But I don't think today's writers can afford the luxury of going off into an ivory tower. Writing is about people, and you have to fuel the engine. So I engage with people because it fuels my engine. I also read poetry, I play piano, whatever fuels the engine. And I do community work because I love it, I enjoy it. So to try to say you can do one and not the other, I don't think that's true. I think you have to do it all, and it's more fun when you do it all. You just have to do it one at a time. You have to focus and get the writing done, which is why I warn people I'm coming into draft stage. I warn my family, and I warn my extended family. I warn my sister. Look, if I don't reply, don't feel bad. I'm just going into the well, you know, I'm going into the writing trance. And it's about 3 months. It's about 3 to 4 months. So the family doesn't feel too bad if I don't make bread during that time, or I, you know, not as good as cooking as I normally am. Hoshi just knows he's gonna have to, you know, pick up, and Kamal helps. So, you know, we figure it out as a family. But yeah, it is different than normal life for us because they know Nawaz's door is locked. And if you interrupt, you're going to get a little bark. So yeah, there is this thing called the writer's trance. But that said, Natalie, I don't think we can be different people. You know, that introverts can't promote their book, or that extroverts can't go into sort of solitary and, you know, write. Everybody has to be able to do everything. It's just what your strength is. For some people, it's a little easier. For some people, it's a little bit more work. But you know, everyone gets to do everything. You just have to learn. Sorry, you're on mute. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, we have a question here from Adol. He said, what type of upfront expenses are involved?
So for writing, it'll not a lot. It's an enormous commitment of time. And I got laid off in 2015. And I did a little bit of consulting work for a couple of years after that, project work. I was interviewing, and I am so grateful that I didn't get a full-time job at that time, because I was at the crossroads. You know, should I, shouldn't I? I was still in my 40s, so it felt too early to quote unquote retire. You know, I felt like that would be kind of lazy to just retire and be home. But I did have this lifelong ambition of writing, to focus writing, just, you know, doing it as a full-time thing. And so after some discussion with Hoshi and myself, we realized that we could afford for me to not be bringing in a full-time income. That we could afford for me to take some time off to just write. And that's a financial decision that every family is going to make. Can you afford to play? And I couldn't have done it till now because we had to, you know, save up for the kids' education, all the financial obligations that everybody else has, right? So we decided now is the time to do that. I had to pay a little bit for a website, a couple $100, learn. There's some subscriptions that I needed to pay. So, you know, expect a couple $1,000s in terms of just, you know, purchases here and there. You got to get good technology, you got to get a new screen. Just, there's no point straining your eyes. If you're going to write 8 hours, 12 hours a day, you better have good equipment. And luckily I have my technical help at home. I have my techie boys who helped me figure out how to reduce eye strain, got a new pair of glasses that is computer distance. These are small things, but if you're going to do it, a career, you have to invest in yourself. And that's really what I did. I didn't need to, rent storage or purchase anything, extremely expensive. So for a writing career, minimal startup costs. Like if you had a restaurant business, you would be putting in maybe 50 grand, right, to get it, to start, and probably far more than that, depending upon if you had, whatever expenses you have in that business, your upfront are going to be far higher before a single dollar comes in. But for writing, it's time. For a publishing career, you have to think in terms of lost income in years. And I said, I didn't expect to make money in 5 years. I said, probably I'll be writing for a while until I get good at it and until I get an agent and I can actually sell something. It will be probably 5 years. And it wasn't, it was like 2.5 years. So I was very lucky in that sense. But to get the writing up to the level at which you're selling 100,000 copies, for example, that's probably going to take a few years. And I have to keep delivering at the same quality. So that means the second book and the third book need to have the same quality and, or better. So you expand your audience. Amor Towles is a writer I admire tremendously. I always say this, I hope someday to write as well as Amor Towles. And his book is called A Gentleman in Moscow. It's about this thick, and I didn't want that book to end. I was wishing that it was another 400 pages long, and it's a massive, it's a big book, it's 500 pages, but it's a lovely book. And he writes so well. That's his second book. The first one was Rules of Civility, which actually isn't as good. It's still a good book, but it's not as good. So his second book was better than his first. And that's what I hope to, that's my model.
I have a quick question, Nawaz, about the book, about the characters. And in reading the book, I don't know how many people have already read it, but the characters are very well developed, I think. Like you can really understand who the character is by the way you describe them. So what kind of was your inspiration in those characters and developing them?
So our Parsi community, right? The folks that I grew up with, all you guys, you were my inspiration. So I don't model characters after one person or another person. They're a combination of people. They're facets of different people that I grew up with, people I admired, people that were unusual, or things that stuck in my memory as something, that I needed to explain. For example, Captain Jim has PTSD, right? He has these flashbacks that come up whenever the word Karachi is mentioned. It brings that horrible incident into his mind. In 1890s, there was no such term as PTSD. Even shell shock or trench syndrome, or whatever, they really weren't. Battle fatigue was not understood at all. But so how does he deal with all this, right? That's part of the narrative. But where did that come from? I actually had an uncle who's now passed away, Uncle Feroz. My Feroz Fua was a World War II veteran. He had, he had suffered action in the African front. He had been in 2 Indian wars, the Indo-Pak War and Indo-Chinese War, and he never talked about them. But I was there. I used to spend my summers in Belgaum with him. It's a cantonment town. And I was there twice when like an incident happened. And those things stuck in my memory because I was a teenager. Nobody was explaining this to me. And I'm going, how can this sturdy, strong man just fall apart like this? It was shocking to me to see that happen. He just disintegrated. And then the other, and it was caused by something on TV that I wasn't even paying attention to. I was sewing, and some word on TV just set him off like that. And the second incident was we were at a dinner table and he froze. He just didn't reply to anybody. He was somewhere else. His mind was somewhere else. And his wife just went like that with a hand, saying, ignore it. And she covered for him. She continued the conversation and she, diverted the conversation. And he's sitting there in the middle of the dining table with this frozen look on his face for maybe 3 or 4 minutes before he kind of woke up from that trance. Those things stick with you, I mean, I love them dearly, but there was some wound underneath that nobody could see. And I paid attention. I just couldn't figure out at 15 or 16, how do you understand this stuff? But you don't forget it. So later on, when I researched it and I understood it, that's when a lot of things about him fell into place. And so that aspect of him made its way into my central character, even though Captain Jim has aspects of like maybe 4 or 5 other people. That part of him comes from a very beloved uncle of mine. It's in a way memorializing the people that I loved in the book itself. And I will tell you flat out that there's a scene where Hoshi and the boys are in the book. It's a happy scene.
That's amazing.
Nawaz, Darius, Sidhwa.
Yeah, Darius, I can't see you, but I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I am your fan. I'm your biggest fan. Always with a smile and kindness at Temple, and I'm your biggest fan. And thank you very much for sharing this information with us, especially me, who run the businesses but never wrote a book. And that was so beautiful, like a case study. I feel like writing a book tomorrow.
Hey, good for you.
You made it so easy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And the question I have is, which one was difficult? Getting these parties together, the writer, you're right, of course, the painter, the cover book, the agent, the publisher. Which one was more difficult? Writing aspect or putting these parties together? Or always you were hand-on?
Right.
That's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Which was the hardest, the producing of the book or the parts of putting it together, the marketing aspects of it?
Yeah.
So it's the part in between the two. The book kind of, I want to say, wrote itself. It kind of pushed its way out of me. It drove me to be written. The book demanded to be written. So I had to struggle with the craft to be able to get the language to write it. That was hard. But the hardest part was finding the agent, because it's very discouraging when you're sending letter after letter after letter and getting rejections. Sometimes they would reject the request even within an hour. And sometimes after 3 months, there's no reply. That's a rejection. So, I sent out 30 letters and another 20, another 30. I was doing them at the rate of about 6 or 8 letters per day, because it takes about 1 to 2 hours to write each letter. Each one, I was researching the agent, researching the agency, trying to find out what they want, how to pitch the book so that it talks to them directly. That took about an hour at least for each agent. And then when you have 50, 60, 70, and 80 people telling you the same thing, you get discouraged. So that was the hardest part, is feeling like I have a really good book here. Why can't anybody else see it? And the reasons, I think, are that the book was too long. I was pitching a book that was 138,000 words. A novel is typically 100,000 words. And mine is 115 now, so it's 400 pages. That's about as long as you want a book to be. People look at a book, and if it's too thick, they just won't pick it up. It's discouraging. So agents also, when you send a pitch saying it's 138,000 words, they don't look beyond that first line. Secondly, it's about India. and only 1 or 2% of the books published in North America are about anything foreign, right? We mostly look to purchase things about America. Americans purchase stuff about America. So that also was discouraging. Then that it's historical and it's unfamiliar. I put in the Rajabai Tower mystery, and Rajabai is an alien word for most Americans. It's actually a hurdle for them to cross. Why would they want to read something that is so alien and unfamiliar? Some people do, but the mainstream still don't. So for all these reasons, I think most of them rejected it. And that was very hard. I was quite unhappy thinking, what do I do next? Should I just write the next book? You know, yeah, yeah. That was very hard. The marketing part, Darius, ended up, I was so lucky to find people that were in my corner like Lila, all right?
I see.
Yeah, the graphics I did a little bit by myself, but Macmillan came in and helped tremendously with the book cover and so on. The blurb, the pitches, this is where you go to a big house because they know marketing. They are experts at this, right? The whole publishing of the book. Yeah, they asked me for a photograph and I sent one. They said, no, go and get a professionally done photograph, not just a nice photograph from our house. So they knew what they were doing. But then this whole aspect of it's just like a small business, I have to push them also, because if I'm not interested, they're not interested, right? So I asked them for a book trailer, like a movie trailer. It's a 30-second book trailer. Yeah, but I asked for that and they said right away, we'll do it. So you have to ask for things. They asked me to, what kind of promotional material. So they said, well, send me a few articles, and they gave me some suggested topics. We have 44 articles and topics that I wrote for promotion. Yeah, that's much more than they asked for. But I was pushing it, and because I was pushing it, they kept putting it out. So Mystery Tribune carried it, and Crime Scene carried it, Criminal Elements carried it. It has been all over. If you're a mystery reader, you should have heard of Murder in Old Bombay by now. But I'm pushing that, I'm driving that. And it's not hard. It's just when I struggle with something I don't know, I reach out. And like right now, I'm struggling with how to send out a newsletter. So if anybody knows how to send out a newsletter, please contact me because I need to learn how to do this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
There is a question from Rustam. He said, we often come across a catchy phrase or idea from a book or a book review or a magazine article. Is using this phrase or idea in one's own book or article considered plagiarizing?
No, it's not. We gain stimulus and interest from other readers, other writers, other magazines. That's perfectly okay. What's plagiarizing is if you lift an entire paragraph or concept from another book. That is total plagiarizing and is frowned upon. So I'm a contest judge right now. Some of my volunteer work, I judge contests because I know a little bit about the craft of writing now, and I can help other writers. And I came across one entry where the entire plot was lifted from Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep, and it had just been changed to be modernized. That is plagiarizing, okay? That is illegal. So not only, that person was not going to win the contest, obviously, but I mean, I think that's actually, they should be dinged for that. At least they should be aware that that is not okay. I mean, I read a lot and I retain a lot. I could tell you from reading one page, whether that is coming from, a classic that I have read. And I can tell you within a paragraph frequently, whether that is coming from somewhere else. So if me, just with 5 years in the writing industry, can do that, then these editors who have been around for 20 and 30 years, they have got a much vaster knowledge. And frankly, there are websites now where you just plug in something and it will tell you whether it came out from another book or another published source, or even somebody's PhD thesis. Any literature that is already published, it will check your paragraph against that content and will tell you whether it is plagiarized. So today you cannot get away with plagiarizing at all, but you can get stimulus and information and be inspired by somebody else's work. There's nothing wrong with that. You just give them credit. So in my book, I have author's notes at the end where I say I give credit to Rudyard Kipling's novel Kim, which is a little bit of a travelogue through India. And it has the great game, and the guy does go into disguises. Sherlock Holmes, he's in disguise in half a dozen of his novels. Sherlock Holmes is supposed to be traveling around in disguise. I have Captain Jim traveling around in disguise, but I give credit that absolutely. And sometimes the credit is right in the book, because on page 1, Captain Jim says he's a fan of Sherlock Holmes. So as long as you give credit, you're safe.
Okay, folks, we might want to start wrapping up now. And I really appreciate today's session. It's been phenomenal. Thank you very much. Very interesting and very inspiring. Folks, it's never too late if you want to adapt your career and learn to do something new. You can be a tremendous success and do something you've dreamed of all your life. So your dreams never come too late when you're an entrepreneur or when you're with WZCC. Please buy the book, do that, and please get involved with WZCC, because we have phenomenal things like this going on all the time. And now I'd like to turn it over to Adel Daver, the president of WZCC, and he's going to say a few words about our Entrepreneurial Development Foundation. Adel?
Thank you. Thank you, Nawaz and Lila. Very informative, very interesting. Enjoyed the book thoroughly. I did it in 4 days, and it was a page turner. I was stuck with it. So people do pick it up and do read it. Just a few words about ZF, which is Zarthusti Entrepreneurship Development Foundation. This is an idea which has been with WZZ for over a decade, where entrepreneurs struggle for financing and don't know where to go. So we started this initiative in India about 2.5 years ago. And we collected some funds, and we're giving out loans on a no interest basis. And we've given out 6 loans, and all the entrepreneurs have really appreciated that. Then the pressure was mounting to do something like that in North America. So we founded this new initiative, and we needed a 501(c) status. And so we did it by teaming with partnering with Fizana, and applied for 501(c), which we've received. So now we are in the process of collecting monies for it, and hopefully we can start giving out monies to budding entrepreneurs. Basically just want everyone to know about it, spread the word. And that was one of the reasons I asked the question, was how much money you needed to start the business. And maybe it wasn't much in your case, but we are hopefully going to be able to give up to $50,000 to budding entrepreneurs without interest. So it's an extremely good opportunity. But so far, we haven't received any applicants from entrepreneurs. This has been around for 6 to 9 months that people have been talking about, but we haven't received a single individual come forward and say, hey, I've got this idea, I need money. So spread the word. Of course, we need money donated also. So we have a corpus, but we are hoping that we can start in the first quarter of next year. So this is just to let everyone know and keep spreading the word. A, that we need donations. B, that we need entrepreneurs who need money to come forward. Okay, thank you, Natalie. Thank you again, Nawaz and Lila.
Thank you, Ada.
So Natalie, anything last words or should we sign off?
Natalie, you're on mute.
It's hard to say goodbye, but it's been a great session. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience, for coming and listening. And thank you for our technical support, Yazdi Tantra in India. And thank all the participants and, of course, our speakers. So thank you very much and look forward to future sessions. Thank you. Take care.
Bye now.
Thank
Bye now.
you.